Little candlelight today. All right, so peace and namaste, everybody. We're going to cut out that beginning. We're going to begin again. Peace and namaste, my mystical friends. Hey, all right. I'll take a moment here and collect myself. And hey, Vicky, Prelude, Michael, Felice, Logan, Renee, Wanda, thank you, Catherine, Max, Flubber, David, Kristen, Michael, Kathy. Thanks, everybody. Don't know really what happened, but there you go. There it is right there. It just won't come up on my other pad so that I can scroll it well. So, namaste, my mystical friends and fellow children of light. This is not church. Mysticism, Jesus, deconstruction, and illumination. I'm the sometimes fumbling Peter Panagore. I'm Div, a twice near-death experiencer and multiple spiritually transformative experiencer starting in childhood. That's just by way of introduction. Besides the fact that I just fumbled my way through that. That's quite the introduction. Please like and subscribe if my video channel feeds you and your spiritual journey and your transformations. I just like to show my human side, I guess. Anyway, we'll continue with our mystical explorations of the Gospel of Thomas. Today, in Saying 22, I call this talk Achieve, Perceive Heaven's Light Here and Now, Co-Create with God. That's a new thing for most Christians or ex-Christians, people who have that kind of mindset. Can we shift our consciousness from awakening to realization to enlightenment? Can we do that? Can we make sense of the oneness out of the duality? Can we make that happen? Translated into Christianese, we have a significant role in our own salvation according to Jesus, a significant role in our own salvation, our own enlightenment. We have a role in that. He says, become like little children. In some ways, I have. And you can too. You can make this happen. I made it happen in my life. And how? Chakra yoga, this thing I often call Kriya yoga, this practice that I've rooted in the sutras and rooted in Paramahansa Yogananda and in Jesus, make thy eye single and thy body will be filled with light. And in that process, I have found for myself, and mystics can only speak out of their own experience in order to speak with wisdom, not with knowledge. I found that this is true for myself. I have been able to do this, and it's not because of me. It's because the tools work on their own. You practice these things and they work on their own. And then the light itself shows itself. And I'm going to explain all of this, okay? But let's briefly begin by going within in a group meditation to set the tone and energize our hearts, our throats, and our third eye chakras. Okay, that's what we're trying to do here with these ohms. We're energizing, we're using our collective energy, our energy collective. Those souls, we souls gathered here, whether live or recorded, because light provides for us when we practice together, and light is timeless. It doesn't matter past or future, it includes past and future. So that's the power of this kind of group practice. And it doesn't just have to be here, okay? It can be somewhere else. You don't need to just do it with us. You can do it among your friends. You can do it wherever you have other people who are also mystical seers of the light or seekers of the light, because just wanting to know this, just wanting to seek it and never having had an experience is a kind of awakening. It's an awakening to a higher truth that you feel inside yourself, but no one can say. Now, we practice this together and we dive inside the creative infinity of the now within, which is the home, central temple of yourself. And that's with a capital S, of yourself. So breathing in control focuses the mind into silence, allowing the divine room within us. Chakra focus opens our inner light channels. That's what it does. The focus on the chakras engaging the chakras creates, well, it shows us the channels of light that exist inside us. We kind of open the channels up. We're blind to the channels for the most part. But first, if we find our chakras and activate them, then these channels become more obvious as time goes on. So 3 ohms, set our minds in place. And then we're going to, in the centering prayer portion, so 3 ohms to set our minds in place, and then the centering prayer practice. And if you're new here, pick a prayer word, pick a prayer from your past, pick a number, pick the word love. I use the word Jesus. That's my technique. And follow it on your breath. Breathe in your nose into just below your belly button, down there to your second chakra. And follow my breath today. All right, here we go. Thomas saying 22. Jesus saw the familiar sight of children breastfeeding in public, and he said to his disciples, "These breastfeeding little ones are like the ones who enter heaven." They asked, "So will we enter heaven by being little ones?" Jesus answered, "When you make the two one, and make the inside as the outside, and the outside as the inside, and the above as the below, and when you make the male and female into a single one, so that the male is not male, and the female not female, and when you make your eyes in the place of an eye, a hand in the place of a hand, a foot in the place of a foot, an image in the place of an image, then you will enter heaven. In the present time, then you will enter heaven. Co-creating with God, achieve, perceive heaven's light here and now. Jesus saw the familiar sight of children breastfeeding in public. And he said to his disciples, "These breastfeeding little ones are like those who enter heaven." Babies are entirely dependent on their mother, who is goddess to them. Feeding babies with their bodies, caring for them, embracing them, adoring them, and loving them. This is the foundational metaphorical truth Jesus observes. Suckling children are dependent on their mother goddess more than the children actually know. All they know is that they are loved, cared for, and fed. Their dependence goes much further. And such as it is with us, when we suck on the nipple of the full breast of the goddess, we are nurtured and we grow. Also, it was expected, natural, and typical for women to breastfeed in public. Normal. Jesus said, these breastfeeding little ones are like those who enter heaven. And the disciples, who didn't understand his meaning, asked, so will we enter heaven by being children? You can almost hear the confusion in their question. Uh, Whiskey, Tango, Foxtrot, Jesus? As shown in mysticism, that book Mysticism that I always refer to, which is pretty close at hand all times, Barank, as shown in Mysticism by Evelyn Underhill, that brilliant scholar, all mystics, all mystics can solely, SOLEY, can solely write and talk through their own experience. They don't talk. We don't talk through our head knowledge. We use our head knowledge to speak through our experience. All of the mystics, all of the mystics, they all do the same thing. Rumi too, and Jesus included. We can only talk through our experience. And that's true for all of us who've had mystical experiences, not just for near death experiencers, and not just for mystical geniuses like Jesus. We speak through our experience, and so I teach through mine. It's not philosophical or theological speculation. It's not speculation. Wisdom isn't knowledge. Wisdom is not knowledge. It arises from the heart. It is of a different order. And we can co-create the space which is the container of it, wherein it lives inside us already and increases in us and is released from that chamber where it lies mostly locked away. As often I do, I'm going to switch now to the second person from the first person and move this saying 22 of Jesus's from the future tense to the past tense, so that when I reread this same saying, you're going to hear Jesus speaking about his own experience and making this happen to him and finding his enlightenment preceded by his realization, preceded by his awakenings. He co-created his salvation. And that's a radical sentence to say in Christianity. Jesus answered his disciples saying, when I made the two one, and when I made the inside like the outside, and the outside like the inside, and the above as the below, and when I made the male and the female into a single one, so that the male is not male and the female is not female, and when I made eyes in the place of an eye, a hand in the place of my hand, a foot in the place of my foot, an image in the place of my image, then I entered cosmic consciousness, the Christ consciousness, in which he lived at the very moment he was saying this to the disciples. And because it is timelessness, he still lives there, more so now. No human flesh in the way. Jesus co-created his own enlightenment. That may sound typical to someone not raised outside the Christian theology. But within Christian theology, that is a radically controversial statement. But this is what he tells us is true in the Gospel of Thomas. I made my hand in the place of a hand. Now, here's from the Coptic. He says, I make, I make, I make, I make. In my version, I make, I make, I made, I made. That's what I should have said. In my version, he said, I made, I made, I made, I made. He also says, I make, I make, I make, I make. He co created. He tells us, and this is in the Coptic, you make, you make, you make, you make. You will this. We can will our part to it. This is a radical departure from Christian teaching. This is the depth of the truth that's found in the sutra, the Yoga Sutra, that we have a responsibility and a capacity to create more capacity inside ourselves by focusing inside in our journey. Make your eye single and your body will be filled with light, he said in Matthew, King James Version. Make your eye single and your body will be filled with light. I've said this so many times. Making makes room for grace with a capital G. Making this space makes room for more mystical experiences. There's no promise with that. But the more space for the divine one creates within oneself, the thinner the veils become, the more access that you have, your channel has. Grace, capital G, is the divine flow of inner expansion into remembrance. Grace is the divine flow of inner expansion into remembrance. You inflate your own balloon. I returned from my first death with all of my bodily senses functioning on a soul level. All of my bodily senses were functioning on a soul level as one thing. I've said this before. My hand had a hand in its place. My foot had a foot in its place. My self-image, well, it had an image in its place with a capital I. And all these other things he lists in that list to a lesser quality, to a lesser degree, or a level. That was in my experience. I want to talk a little bit about quality, quantity, and levels. Because the light is the light is the light. But the bigger one builds one capacity, the more light one has flowing through them. It doesn't belong to me, it's not mine. I merely make the capacity inside of myself for the leveling up, for the potential of leveling up. I've done this for 40 years. I did it in secret for 40 years because I didn't want to bring it out until I knew it worked for me. Because I have no evidence other than what's written in the books. I needed to show myself that what was written in the books turned out to be true, and that the tools of yogic chakra practice, Kriya Yoga, especially in combination with a centering silence prayer, where the elimination of the egoic mind, the ending of the story we tell ourselves about who we are, in conjunction, these two things kind of made me a child, kind of made me a kid, kept me a kid. Of course, I had a little motivation in my nickname, Peter Pan. The light sees itself. That's its power. The power we have is to unsee our egoic self, to quiet that down so that the capacity grows by degrees of self-surrender. Self-surrender is the key. Any light you see in me is not mine. Any energy you feel from me is not mine. Has nothing to do with my physical body. My physical body is this temporary shell through which the light flows, just like all of us. And there are degrees to this. You can make your degree higher, or the capacity for that stronger, or the potentiality for that stronger, by opening yourself wider. There are spiritual levels here on earth. Humility, kindness, and compassion arise from union in grace with a capital G, and by the degree of willful action. We co create our inner space. We co create this spiritual space inside us, this temple. By the grace of our mystical experiences, my mystical friends, we learn portions of what no word can say. We carry fragments and share what we know as a collective at Mystic Tea Salon, a blatant commercial, top of the hour, 11 o'clock Eastern Time. So we all get portions of this, and there are levels here. But there's also, paradoxically, this radical equality. And this is where the humility arises. This is where the compassion and the kindness comes from. The radical equality of the lesserness of humanity and all this world in comparison to the unlimited infinity of the purity of the divine itself. The collective as one keeps humility real here. There are levels in this world, but not in the next, not so much. There are heavens in the next world, which are levels too. Too complex to get into right now. These after gifts. I want to thank Sachi for the word after gift, which is used instead of, she's using instead of after effects, after gifts of mystical experience. It's a beautiful phraseology. Thank you, Sashi. The after gifts of near-death experience enabled me to taste the truth of Jesus's words in this pericope, in this, not a pericope, in this saying. I was able to see this and live in this because of experience decades before I read it here. There's a universality to this, to the truths that Jesus tells in Thomas. Thomas confirmed and confirms what I experienced in my life. After my near-death experience, all of my belief systems were erased. I've said this before, but my mind, my brain, and my cultural context was this. It was a kissing cousin. No, closer than that. It was closer than that. I was still part of the charismatic Catholic movement and had even come a little bit through the Navigators and the Campus Crusade for Christ and InterVarsity and all those sorts of things. So in my head and in my culture, I was still attached to these things. I had to make a break from Christianity. I made a mental break from it when I realized the truth that I can use my chakras to enhance my interior spirituality, and that I could feel them with the energy of my palm, and I can grow them in my heart and in my solar plexus and in my sacral chakra, and I can grow them all and can channel them all together as it says in the sutras. This is totally workable and completely possible to co-create the space inside ourselves as Jesus teaches here. Now, he doesn't mention chakras. Okay, yeah, I know. But I found them on my own. Well, I had someone tell me to look for them. That's true. But their energy field was present to me immediately. That's how I knew that they were real. And so I learned to make my inner eye single so that when I look out through my two eyes in this world, I learned to make my inner eye single so that when I look out through my two eyes and I hear through my two ears, I see the oneness inside of everything. And I can increase my capacity for that. Do you want to see more light in the world? Do you want to perceive more light in the world? You can achieve this. This is an achievement within reach. I see, I hear the oneness of all inside of everything. This morning, someone asked me if it was hard for me to come back from Salt Lake City and the iands conference. I like Salt Lake City and I like the conference and I like Utah. It's beautiful. But it was hard for me to leave these people with whom I needed to make no explanation of what I'm talking about. It's why I come here, because here in our group, in our community, we can feel this energetic energy. We can create larger spaces for this inside ourselves and connect with each other in this energetic place and feed each other. Meditation, that was a big part of my journey. It still is. But the other significant factor, meditation into silence, the centering into oneness, but the other significant factor, and now we're going to get a little deep here, is the chakra work through asana yoga, which is position based yoga, and sitting yoga. And yeah, I have not been a good asana yogi for a number of years. After my heart attack, after my surgery for my elbow, after giving up things in my life to care for my granddaughter living with us, and then caring for her when she wasn't living with us, I've finally gotten back to the place in my life where I can practice my physical yoga. It's okay to take time off. I continued my chakra work inside my meditation life, which is why I teach it here in our meditation. With these tools, I remade myself. I remade myself and I re-divinized myself. You can re-divinize yourself with a capital D through practices of energy work where selflessness and channeling the light, the oneness of being is the goal, even in the chakra work, even in the centering. Now, here's a little bit of advice. Somebody sent me this article this week, and I do recommend it. And I posted it on my Facebook page. I posted it in Mystic Tea's Salon Kitchen on Facebook. It's the Seven Chakras and Their Significance to Your Life by Sadhguru. In this, he reminds us that we work on our six chakras and the seventh opens on its own. This is the reason I never focused a lot on my seventh chakra in public conversation. In my practice, though, I focus a lot on my crown chakra. I raise my chakra. I feel my chakra with my palms. I raise it up to the eighth and the ninth. I work it. And it does open on its own. It's that leap of faith. It's that grace that comes when that opens. But the tools of chakra practice focus primarily on the other six. And when we link them together, heart, we do this every week. Oh, I am practicing with you the linking of these chakras. I'm helping you place your mind inside them without thought. Vocalization, yes. Ah, oh, mm. The same sort of mental focus can be applied to your chakra life inside your meditative life, merely by looking at them. When you drive your breath to your sacral chakra, you place your mind below your belly button in the front or the back or in the middle. You activate this. And when you breathe back up again out through your nose and you bring your focus up to here, you activate this. And they grow in space and open the channel between them. And they run down through all of your other chakras meanwhile. In your centering practice, in my centering practice, I move around a whole bunch of techniques. This is a little depth for you here. If you're practicing with your third eye and your sacral chakra, engage that root chakra on the out breath. Pull in that abdomen, pull in that anus. Control and drive the breath right up to your frontal lobe or to your throat chakra or to your heart chakra and breathe through those two spaces. Aim your will there. The more you aim your will there, or here, these upper chakras are easier for me to access than the lower chakras, which took more work over my lifetime. But you can drive that same breath to your solar plexus, to your sacral from your root. And the more you practice this, the stronger it will become in you. If you place your hands in front of your sacral chakra in this kind of form, you have this chakra here and this chakra here to drive the energy into when you're at the base of your breath. When you feel your palms, you can drive your breath right into your palms right from there. Not up, into your palms. Energize those spaces right here and right there. When you practice that particular technique in your sitting practice, you drive your prana, your chi to your palms, and then you have it in your hands. In your physical yoga practice, in your asana practice, the same thing holds true, only more so because you're not using a word or a prayer to focus your mind. You're using your body to focus your prana, your chi, and you move it through your body like a flow. And when you say, for instance, you're in downward dog, from your coccyx, the base of your spine, your tailbone, right up to your crown chakra or to your forehead, right to your crown chakra, you breathe your breath along your spine and run it back and forth between these two. And you drive it there with your breath and relax all your muscles that you're not using and tighten those that you are and relax those that you're stretching. Look at the muscular structure in your back in that stretch. Relax the tension and ride your breath. The result of this body, mind, breath practice is the recognition and understanding of the channels between your many chakras. And the channels become illuminated, and the chakras become illuminated, and you become illuminated, and you become like a child again. A child who is pure, mostly pure adoration of the mother. In a state of joy and adoration and satiation and satisfaction, sucking on the nipple of the goddess. This liquid life, this prana, this chi, this energy illuminates from the inside out. In combination practice of the end of self, controlling one's thoughts about the story one tells oneself, in the centering into silence. And every time the word falls away in the centering of silence, you touch into the now, into the silence itself. These two in combination, well, they've energized me. They've made me like a child in my energy form, in my attitude, in my approach to life. But it's not about me. That I'm just an example. It is about the practice. It is about the light flow itself. This thing that you already are. And so few see. But you see. Or you want to see, or you've seen. Chakra practice involves very little language. None, really. Some imagination, but no language. It involves the concentration of your mind in the space where you feel the chakra to be. You feel for it. And when you find it, you focus in there and then make it up to the next one. If your heart chakra is the base of all your practice, if this is where your energy is, use that space to link to here next or to here. Use the space where the chakra is the most lively. Use that one as your base. Open that one and then open in succession all the others, one at a time. Jesus tells us we can make the outer like the inner and the inner like the outer, the interior like the exterior. We can therefore create conditions. We create the conditions that are favorable for the opening of the crown chakra. We create these conditions. We do this by working the lower six chakras, and then the crown will open on its own when we are charged, open, flowing, and joined. It opens on its own, either by divine grace or pressure within, or some combination of the two. We do this. I did this. I helped this along in my physical yoga practice combined with my centering prayer practice. It doesn't have to be my practice and it doesn't have to be me. This is what I teach, but there are other practices that do the same thing. It's always, only, ever about the energy and the light. These tools work. I promise that. Now, before we finish here, and I've been talking a long time, I was always troubled by these words in this story, this 22. These words troubled me. I understood the whole rest of it, but I didn't get this. When you make your eyes single in the place of an eye. I'm going to say that again. I should read what my script says. I always was troubled by his words. When you make eyes in the place of an eye. When you make eyes in the place of an eye. Well, wasn't that not my problem? Didn't I already have eyes? And wasn't I lacking the one eye? Why would I make the two eyes in the place of the one eye? I could never understand that saying. And then I wondered. I wondered about my single eye. I've been working on my single eye since I came back. And my single eye work produced this vision of the light in the world. The more I make my eye single, the more my eyes see the light in the world. I made my eyes in the place of my eye. They occupy the same place. That's what I didn't understand in his words. I understood that in my life because that's what I was experiencing, but I couldn't quite grab it. And then I understood my single eye is that Christ consciousness, the kingdom, he calls it, the queendom, the universal cosmic, the cosmical universal, whatever you want to call this divine energy that is this heaven in which I live. I see out through my two eyes the world through the consciousness of heaven within, and therefore see the consciousness of heaven without. And my inside and my outside become the same. My above and my below. My energy hand and my physical hand. My energy eye and my physical eye. And all things become light to me. All living things. All people. And so, my two eyes, I've replaced my one eye, in the world anyway. And I made this happen, or rather, I set up the interior conditions for it to be an opportunity for grace, capital G. Grace is the power of mystical experience. That's that lifting up and that coming, that taking away the visitation from the dead, all by grace. We don't make that happen, but we can create the inner conditions through which many acts of will, through many acts of will, we create these interior conditions by repeated actions of will. That's why meditation practice is a practice. It's a continual accumulation of acts, of little acts of will to silence the mind, to breathe the mind into the chakra energy field, inside yourself, the core of who you are. And then our chakras become activated. And when we come into community of others, like that iands conference and like here in Mystic Tea Salon, then we all pick up the resonance of each other, and our energetic fields, our chakras, become more activated. The practice of it matters. If this is what you want, this is what I want. At the very end of this book, I wrote these words on the last page, and this was a question to me. What do you want? What do you want now? What do you want? Having seen who I am, I know what I want, and I pursue with my heart and my soul, and have. And now I know the tools work. If you can feel an energy charge in your body from this message, let me know in the comments. The energy of light with a capital E and a capital L in all of us combines to enlighten all of us. This heaven we participate in here, this heaven realized now, energizes all of us together, no one above the other, because the light is paradoxically full of levels and equality. And the equality supersedes the inequality. Hence humility, compassion, and kindness, the outgrowths of mystical life. The aftergift of mystical grace that materialized following my iands Conference 2020 mystical transformation that I spoke about during that meditation that I spoke about last week is an expanded space where the outer becomes the inner, the up becomes the down, the you becomes the me, and the me becomes the you, the female not female, the male not male, but divine light itself. And yes, I still go through transformations. That's why I told that story last week, so that you know that this is not an end path. I am still on the journey myself, and I will be till the day I die, in whatever form it takes. Jesus meant that when singleness comes, one enters the kingdom. When one experiences oneness at that moment, one enters the kingdom, enters the now. Whenever we touch our silence and our meditation, when our words cease, when we are only breathing, we connect to the now. The aftergifts of repeated entry into permanent residency while living in the world is the benefit. You become a permanent resident of heaven here and now. Being in heaven, being in this consciousness, being in the now. And mystics, we're all about practicality. So what good is entering heaven here now? What good is living in the kingdom? Love is good. Charity is good. Humility, kindness, grace, courage. and defense of the weak are good. All of these arise from a heart burning in the cosmic consciousness. Little children know that heart knowledge. They know that heart knowledge of their mother's love. So latch onto the nipple of life. Latch on and be fed. Thanks for spending time with me today. May the beloved bless you in the most profound need of your heart. Not churches, not just for mystics, but mostly so. Mystics speak in metaphor, including Jesus, and you can come to Mystic Tea Salon today, the top of the next hour, to hear wisdom spoken through humility, kindness, and compassion from their own transformative experiences, from our transformative experiences spoken of in metaphor. Link is below. Your gifts of financial support really do keep me going. And if this really does feed you, if this really is helpful, despite all my bumblings, if this really is helpful, keep me going. I appreciate it. You make it possible. Thanks for your gift to the monthly contributors who are here, who've been giving for years. I can't tell you how thankful I am for that. Your support makes it possible. PayPal, Venmo, Zelle, and Patreon. Or book a private session with me. Or give a private session, gift a private session to someone else. I'm transparent about all of this. And I'm here for you at peterpanagore.love. And I'm going to take a peek. All right, my friends. Well, thank you, Sean. Beautiful message today. Beautiful. Thank you, Kristen. Let's see how many. Oh, thanks for liking and subscribing. Oh, I'm going to turn this little toward me. We're almost out of time here. I didn't get a chance to spend in the chat. The whole while you were speaking, I felt as though the top of my head was swelling somehow. Thank you for a moving teaching. You're welcome. I guess that curtain, I can get rid of this thing, right? I could have got rid of this the whole time. I hope that was helpful. Thanks, Lynn. Wonderful. Thank you. Here for so many reasons, Robert. Quiet energy. Thank you, Peter. Wonderful message. Thank you. All of this helps while driving in New Jersey. No kidding. Oh, well, I hope mind on the road there in New Jersey, but I'm glad that we're along for the ride with you. Thanks, Sean. Colleen, thank you. A permanent resident of heaven here and now. That's what it is, Kristen. That's what it is. Colleen, I'm here feeling it. Oh, great. Thank you for saying that. Praise the light and Peter, the peace that surpasses our understanding, says Brother Ed. Good to see you. Hey, Holly, I feel the energy source is infinite, so above and beyond, within and without, surrounding and all encompassing all. Yes, the creation exists in our own power and participate in the process. Participate in your process. Amen, Robert. To connect to the divine, to the Father with the divine three in this physical realm is true eternal wealth. Above the spirit realm is the goal where the two are, where there are one or two. You're welcome, Michael. Thank you. We're all in this together. Thanks, Renee. Thank you, Fruitness. Powerful. Yeah, I'm still figuring out what happened to me at iands. I can talk more about that at Mystic Tea if you're interested. Always feeling while you're in the frequency. Good, KC, because you're in it too. All right, my friends. I'll see you in about 10 minutes. Top of the hour. Peace and love. I'll turn on the Zoom right quick so you can log in soon, but I'll see you there. Peace and love, everybody. Thank you. Thanks for liking and subscribing too.